Hello, you're listening to a Heroes Welcome, episode 22. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Wes. I'm here with Andrew.
And it's been a pretty busy week for me. I don't know about you, but yesterday was my birthday, so things have been a little bit crazy. I did manage to get some Overwatch in. I actually did all my placement matches. I don't know where you've been at. But,
happy birthday. Yeah, it was a good time to be playing Overwatch as usual. Lots of things to talk about. We have a big show. Let's mention a little bit about Chris Metzen leaving. People may not know him.
Big news. So if you're not aware, Chris Metzen, probably one of the most well-known people in the whole of the franchise of Blizzard, but big deal to Overwatch because he was a pretty big part of the team. He was the one that originally announced Overwatch at BlizzCon, if you saw that. So yeah, pretty big deal.
Yeah, and he is retiring. He's not going to another company or anything, but he's the guy that's pretty much responsible for a lot of the characters, a lot of storytelling, not just in Overwatch, but a lot of the other IPs as well. He voices Thrall in Warcraft, so you might familiarize with that.
Right, and he did say that he wanted to continue doing Thrall, so we're not, spoiling anything. We don't think Thrall's going anywhere anytime soon. Definitely doesn't know how to hold on to things very well, but Thrall will still be around, and I'm sure we will see more of Metzen in the future, but he really wants to take time and be with his family, which obviously we all understand. I mean, he's getting there into his... I think he's in his late 40s and such or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the point where a lot of the OG guys at Blizzard are getting older and probably want to settle down.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, he's done pretty much everything he's set out to do. I mean, he started when he was 19 at Blizzard, which is crazy. Sitting here at 26 years old thinking of someone starting out at Blizzard at 19 and all that he's accomplished. And the amount of time he's been at Blizzard.
So big props to him for everything. Obviously, we love Overwatch, love the characters. Look forward to what we have in the future.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Chris Metzen, huge fan. Like I said, I love all the story and all of the IPs, especially Overwatch and, Blizzard, World of Warcraft and all that. So big props to him. Congratulations. Have a nice retirement, and we will see you soon, I'm sure.
Yes, let's talk a little bit about the meta, just... what I've been experiencing, not really a big fan of it. It's triple tank, triple support.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I thought we would see this coming around the corner when we seen Ana launched. I was waiting for it. I was definitely not ready for it. I don't like it at all. Thankfully, at least where I'm placed, I don't see it near as much. But
yeah, I'm seeing a decent amount, which is, it varies a little bit slightly, but pretty much you're looking at, Reinhardt, Winston, Zarya. And you always have a Zenyatta, usually Lucio and Ana, usually.
Yeah, that's
sometimes you have a Roadhog instead of a Reinhardt, but pretty much what that accomplishes is it makes characters like McCree useless. Like, what's McCree going to do against that comp? There's nothing McCree's going to be able to do. And it's kind of like a stall really comp kind of strategy. I don't know, but... Not extremely exciting, but,
If ever there was a turtle-ish comp in Overwatch, this was it. I mean, the 3 tank, 3 support makes it really hard to break in past the front line and get anything done and take out the healers. And then you have 3 healers, which Ana being one of them, she can also do, quite a bit of damage and, do some utility as well. So, yeah, it makes it extremely hard. So
it's normal to have this ebb and flow, right? These different strategies, they come and go, the meta shifts, and we're just in that point in time right now, but looking forward to the future changes and what we have in store. Maybe some new characters in the future could spice things up a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we're all waiting to see what Sombra is going to bring. Hopefully, whenever Blizzard gets done messing around with us and having their fill.
Yeah, they'll probably have so much fun. They'll probably just wait to release her even later.
Right. We'll probably see another character come in before Sombra, just so they can continue
that big mech dude
arc,
with the rockets in his chest. He's the next guy.
Right.
But we have a pretty loaded show today, right? So we're going to cover the news like we always do. We have a strategy segment. We're covering 76. We haven't covered 76 yet. There's a lot of things to talk about with him, and obviously the competitive scene. So many things to talk about. We can't even cover all of them, to be honest, but we'll do our best.
We'll do our best to bring you the important stuff. So I guess we can jump right in. We'll start at the top with the patch. So recent patch came out on the 13th. It wasn't a huge patch, but some interesting things.
Right, so... not, like you said, a very small patch. So let's start with just the Mercy Resurrection play of the game. A lot of people are complaining, Mercy just push Q and rest 3 people and she gets play the game every time.
And this was specifically in competitive. I don't think they were having the problem in quick play as much. But competitive play, they were seeing her way more than any other hero in the game. So they fixed that issue. So hopefully we won't see too many of those anymore.
Yeah, and the Eichenwald, right? So the payload got a little bit speed boost.
Right. So yeah, they sped up the payload on Eichenwald. So I don't know if you've played a lot of Eichenwald. I played a little bit of it, and I definitely think it's a good change. It needed to be a little bit quicker. It kind of felt like when you get into the ending part where you're actually inside the building, it seemed like it's really slow. And being in an enclosed space like that, it makes it much easier to defend in that situation. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean Blizzard obviously has the numbers to look at behind the scenes, right? So I'm sure that's a change that even out the they want to get the 50% win for both attacking defending. So
Right.
I'm sure there's a reason for that, and it's probably better.
Yeah, I mean they have the numbers. I'm sure they have a lot more knowledge on it as far as that. So definitely a good idea. So
yeah, a little bit of changes to competitive, right? So we have a new competitive tier, which is a legend, has been added to the competitive play info screen.
Right, so it's a map key for any of those who read the patch notes and were a little confused. I read it myself and I was confused. It's not a whole new tier. The tiers have not changed. The breakdown on the skill ratings have not changed. None of that. It is actually a little key that will pop up during your competitive play to kind of give you the breakdown on that. So
yeah, it just lets people know, like,
for you.
There's gold and silver, and it just lets people know about that, I guess.
Right. So yeah, not a huge change, but just cool little UI change there. So yeah, and that was another thing. I read the patch notes and it was under UI, but I wasn't sure why it was under UI because the way it reads like a brand new tier. So this definitely
that's kind of interesting. Yeah, so we want to talk about the battle tag changes.
Right. So we've been waiting for quite a while for this. I know they released a free change for everybody back not too long ago, and I changed my battle tag, and I believe you've changed yours as well. But now they actually have a new service for you to be able to pay for pay for a battle tag change. So it's about $10 per change, so you can buy one anytime you need to and change it immediately. It reflects immediately. You don't have to worry about your friends. It'll automatically update all your friends list, and your friends will have your new battle tag and all of that. And so you can do that anytime through Blizzard's website.
Yeah, I remember talking about this in one of our very first episodes about the battle tag, because we announced that everyone got a free battle tag, and they talked about some changes coming in the future. And it's one of those things where you just put like a paywall behind it just so people don't like abuse and change the name all the time. And so, I mean, it's fine.
I mean, it's $10. It's not a lot. I mean, if you want to change the name, it's $10. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody can fork over $10 for a little name change, and it gives them a little money for the service to be able to provide it. And as you said, so that it's not abused completely. And to note, like you said, with the free change that came in the past, if you haven't used that, you still have that. That didn't go away. That will stay there until you use it. So you have a free change if you haven't used it already. And then whenever you purchase it, it'll stay there until you use it. There's no expiration date, anything like that. So
yeah, and like new accounts, they'll have a one-time free name change. We're talking about the battle tag, which is kind of like your name that's kind of universal amongst all the Blizzard titles. So it's kind of like your login information.
It's a big deal with Overwatch because that is your actual name in the party and in the UI as well. So people will know you as that name. They'll see that name on there. So
yeah, and they don't have to be unique. It's good to point out. They do have a little hashtag numerical value after the name, so it doesn't have to be unique. You don't have to come up with some creative, weird, special characters. You just kind of get what you want.
Which is exactly why I changed mine, because mine was different. I had a kind of a special name because before I created it with a different name, and different email as well. So
all right, so if you want to be known as somebody else, then go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, so you can change that anytime you want to. It's now in effect. It's live. So jumping into the next thing, we got of course some news on opening week for BlizzCon that's coming up in November, fast approaching all the time. It seems like it just happened last year, but new stuff all the time. And of course, we're talking about the Overwatch World Cup. That's the thing that we care about in Overwatch. So that is coming up, October through 29th and 31st. It will be 16 teams competing to whittle it down to 8 that will actually go on to BlizzCon.
Yeah, and I did notice just recently the digital tickets are available for purchase, and
the virtual ticket.
Yeah, so you could watch BlizzCon live. It's a pretty good setup. I usually get it every time unless I'm attending, but I still get the digital ticket, so I watch it even when you're there. You can't watch all the things.
So much to do and see that the virtual ticket is really.
It's definitely worth it. And there's tons of announcements. Obviously, we're going to hear about new characters and maps, and there's some goodies involved as well. So I didn't actually look at the specific digital goods.
Yeah, I didn't look at it yet. I'm like I said, I'm usually not big on the little tiny goodie bags and cosmetic stuff. But, it's always good to have little stuff like that. It incentivizes it a little more. So,
but yeah, so pretty much, we've been talking about it, and we'll talk more about it when we get into competitive section. But, there's going to be 16 teams, best of threes, round robin group stages, and there'll be 8 teams remain to compete at BlizzCon. And, we've been talking about it. They're not like the pro franchise. They did something a little bit different. They have a little mix and match of different people from forming new teams.
Right, so it's a mixed match. It's like you said, it's not for any prize money. It's just kind of for bragging rights, and it's a cool thing for them to do for their first year before they're actually able to put together like a full tournament next year.
Right, we'll talk a lot about it in just a little bit. So let's talk about the 34th annual Golden Joystick Award. You wanted to shout out to Overwatch and get people voting for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, we all know if you're playing Overwatch, it's an amazing game in a million different fronts. The audio, the visual, the design layout, and of course, its competitive play is really good. And if you're not aware, the annual Golden Joystick Awards is like the big video game awards. They happen every year. This is the 34th annual, and Overwatch has been nominated for 8 awards, so it's pretty crazy. It's 8 different categories, from everything from original game, best original game, to visual audio design, game of the year, best gaming moment, PC game of the year, and many more.
Multiplayer game, PC game of the year.
Right, so a ton of different categories. Like I said, 8 categories. So we will actually have the link in the show notes, and I'm sure it is listed on Overwatch's website as well. You can go to the link on the show notes and vote and give your voice.
Right, and let's talk a little bit about the National Association of Collegiate eSports. This is something that's pretty new.
Right, so this is something that's pretty new. I think last year was the first year that they kind of started pushing this, but they didn't really have a lot going on yet. It's something that they've been trying to push for quite a while for the collegiate esports. We've seen a lot of it with other Blizzard titles as well starting out, and it kind of just launched in the U.S. This September 7th, so really recently, with UC Irvine being the first public university to offer scholarships for the fall of 2016. So obviously, always moving in a great direction to see more, gaming, especially to help support, the colleges and stuff.
Yeah, not specifically eSport scholarships.
Esports, yes, exactly.
Which is pretty interesting to get into college, playing video games.
Yeah, definitely. So I always pushing for that. I mean, it's just cool to see, like I said, that everything's growing and things are moving in that direction. So just wanted to.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about esports, man. We've been covering it, since before the game came out. There's pretty much every single week a new organization. Envious is coming, Reunited, Rogue. We have all these huge, big name companies, and it's a thriving atmosphere, would you say?
Oh, definitely. And, I put this in here because I really wanted to talk about the way things are moving and the direction things are going, because every day, we do, the show notes every week, and I'm looking at it and we're seeing more organizations, more tournaments coming in. There's so many to talk about. Like I said, we can't even cover them all. But it's just really cool to see that, even still at just this very beginning stage where things have just kind of started out, how far we've come from the beginning and how much things are growing so quickly.
Right, and we love talking about the esports scene. There's so much going on. We just try to get the highlights every single week, the maybe some upset here and there, the big tournaments, but there's so much going on all over the world, all the different regions, in Asia, they got their own tournaments going on. Obviously Europe and NA, we've been going strong for a little bit now, but it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and obviously it's great for the game. It's healthy for the game. I think Blizzard's doing a good job, creating a space in the game for that to thrive in and actually be competitive, the balancing.
And allowing it to grow and not trying to make it something that it's not. I mean, it's such a great game, being that it's an FPS and being that it has, different things about it that makes it a little bit more unique and such, and just the stylization of it and just the competitive nature of Overwatch just fits so well in the esports genre area, that it's able to thrive so well without needing to be pushed in this direction. So it's just really good. I'm happy that things are moving in the great direction. It's very healthy. So
yeah, we have I think a bright future to look forward to. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and definitely look forward to covering what comes round.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, just like I said, just look forward to it. I mean, there's always something going on with Overwatch weeklies and stuff. It's awesome. So
all right, so let's talk about competitive in the last week. So the biggest thing going on is the Overwatch World Cup 2016, which is the thing that's going down at BlizzCon.
Right. We've been talking about it pretty much every week now. I mean, we're leading up to it. Like I said, it's coming up in the very beginning of November, so we're getting closer. We're already at the end of September now. So, we started all the way out, like I said, three different regions, 51 countries, all in the qualifiers. And last week we mentioned, the Europe is kind of ahead of the pack as far as, they're getting their qualifiers done before everyone else. So those are the first to talk about.
Yeah, so the finals are going down in BlizzCon, but obviously games have already been taking place. They're trying to narrow it down because, we had 51 countries, all have their own dedicated team representing them. So narrowing that down quite a bit to BlizzCon takes some time.
Exactly. So, the European qualifier groups we talked about last week. We gave you some of the groups. So we have a lot of those, moving on, and we'll talk about those in a second. They have 6 groups that are going to be moving on to BlizzCon. So 12 of them made it through the first round of qualifying, and then they went into the playoffs. And so 12 teams, we have, Germany beat out Iceland. We have Finland versus Benelux, France versus Turkey, Sweden, Italy, Russia, Norway. And the big upset that I seen was Spain versus CIS Baltic. They took that 3-0. So if you want to watch a game, that's definitely one that you'll probably want to watch.
Yeah, so pretty much we know the 6 teams all going to BlizzCon, right? From Europe.
So we have Germany, Finland, France, Sweden, Russia, and Spain. Those are the European teams that we will be seeing at BlizzCon.
An important note, they all won their games 3-0.
Right. I noticed that. It was a pretty big sweep. I mean, I figured we'd see a lot of this because of the fact that, Europe had probably the most amount of teams in their region competing. So they had to whittle it down all the way to 6 teams. And it seemed like some of the really high-rated players ended up on some of the similar teams. So, some of them like Germany really obviously was one of the strong ones in the group. So.
Right, and so you had a lot more teams in Europe, so it made sense they started a little bit earlier, whittling it down. So we have a little bit more action in America's qualifying, and the way that's working is some teams, I guess, are guaranteed to place.
Right, so if you saw it or if you listened to the show a couple weeks back, we talked about it when it first was announced that they were going to be doing the World Cup, and they talked about specifically for other reasons from internet connection to region-specific things, a few of the teams would automatically move on to BlizzCon. So out of the Americas, we have, of course, the U.S., Canada, and Brazil. Those teams are not having to qualify. They will automatically go to BlizzCon. And out of the Asia-Pacific region, we have China, South Korea, and Australia automatically moving on to BlizzCon.
Right, so we do have some group tournaments going on, right? So like Chile, Argentina, for example, they're battling it out for their place for BlizzCon. But yeah, so Team USA, Canada, Brazil, guaranteed to be there at BlizzCon. Same thing with China, South Korea, like I said, and Australia.
Right, exactly. So, and there will be a total of 4 teams that will go on to the Americas, or will go on to BlizzCon for the Americas. So, of course, we have U.S., Canada, and Brazil, and we're looking for one more, of course. And so, out of the group qualifiers, we have Chile versus Colombia. That's going to be the next matchup, and whoever wins out of that will go on to BlizzCon.
Right, so I'm sure probably by the time we record our next show, we'll have the
winners
victors,
out of the Americas.
Right, and did you want to talk about the APAC qualifier groups?
Right, so we'll just go over it quickly. I mean, basically, we have, again, the 3 teams, China, South Korea, and Australia, that are moving on, and we actually have 6 that we're looking for, so 2 more. So it's kind of a little bit interesting. We have Taiwan, Thailand, and Malaysia, so 2 of those 3 will move on to BlizzCon.
Yeah, so Japan got knocked out, huh?
Yep, Japan got knocked out. I was definitely looking forward to seeing them play in BlizzCon, but unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to have it there. They're going to have their own little Olympics at BlizzCon, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, they love Olympics. They always do something special in all their games for Olympics. And
yeah, they're big-time Olympic fans. So, yeah, definitely it's going to be interesting. I mean, like I said, we've been looking forward to it for a long time. I'm interested to see how it pans out.
And it's just fun to see, you have a bunch of players that are playing with teammates that are normally not playing together. It's, region-based, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think with the regions, you're going to have the people who are, hardcore region fans. They're going to go out there, support their region, and, there'll be a BlizzCon rooting their team on, and it will be interesting. I mean, it's always just interesting for me just to see really high-rated players just duking it out.
Yeah, it's not really high-stress atmosphere as well. It'll probably be pretty chill back. Probably some new friendships being, some new bonds, and maybe some new teams could come from these new relationships. Who knows? There might be some
a lot of stuff
there
going on. So definitely looking forward to BlizzCon. It's going to be exciting, that's for sure.
All right, so let's talk about the Ghost of Gamers weeklies. We love these. We've been talking about these since day one, even before the game even came out in the beta. Pretty much guaranteed tournaments every single week. They have the NA and the EU every single week. And it's just something that's going to be there, reliable, and it gives an atmosphere for newer teams to kind of show their merit. The big teams don't necessarily have to show up. They're busy practicing stuff, but it is a really good space to see new up and coming teams. So on the EU side, we did see Ninjas with Attitude NWA versus LG.
Great name, by the way, versus LG. So, and they actually took that 3-0 versus LG, which is a great job for them. LG is definitely one of the strong teams. So, Ninja's attitude taking
so
that.
the newer team winning.
Yeah. Definitely,
More
so
experience.
Definitely good job for them. And so the only other game I wanted to highlight out of that was in the EU side is LDLC, which is kind of a new team as well, going up against LG, and they ended up losing out, unfortunately, to LG 1-2. But it was a really good game. So if you want to watch a good game, that's definitely one you want to check out on the EU side.
Right, and the NA we had, we have Complexity versus Weedle.
Geniuses, and that is currently going on right now. So they're not completed with the NA side. So if you have some time, you want to check it out. It will be done by the time this is recorded, obviously.
So the NWA, they were competing in NA, but they already got knocked out, huh?
Yes, they did get knocked out in the NA side, but they competed in both. They are a European team, but they played in both.
Yeah. So they're able to do that. We've seen in the past, but obviously they had a ping disadvantage. Obviously, if it's an NA tournament, they are going to be doing all the games on the NA side. But
right,
like I said, it's really just for experience, getting some exposure for the teams. It's really, really good. And there's some prize money involved, and have nothing but great things to talk about, say about that.
Yeah, definitely. So always look forward to the Ghost Gamer Weeklies. Like I said, EU is on Saturday, NA is on Sunday. It's just something to look forward to every week.
And sometimes they take breaks, but a lot of times they're doing that, and like I said, they're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Definitely.
All right, so let's talk about strategy segment, which we mentioned before is all about Soldier 76. We only have a couple more characters we haven't covered yet.
Yeah, only a couple left, and I was kind of surprised again that we hadn't covered Soldier, since he's kind of one of the the key people that is probably the easiest to talk about. He's kind of real straightforward, but he does have a lot of little tips and trick things that a lot of people don't know with him. But yeah, he's one of the staple for me. I know I played him at the beginning. He's a very easy character to jump into, so a lot of people are very familiar with him.
Yeah, I played Soldier a lot in Season 1, beginning of Season 1, a lot of my placement matches. Very, successful placement matches. I did some pretty good work with him. You don't see him very much, when you have 3 tanks, 3 supports. It's a tough atmosphere. But, that's, only probably the higher tier. There's probably plenty of games.
Oh, yeah. I see him quite a bit. And like I said, I still jump to him from time to time when I really need to get work done. He's one of those people where I can constantly get damage out. I can stay alive pretty, regularly, and I can really be there and support the team.
Yeah, he's pretty well-rounded. He doesn't have too many shortcomings.
Yeah, he's a well-rounded character. And I got to say, previous couple of patches ago, we see Gods doing some work on that Soldier 76. If you want to watch some good Soldier games, watch Gods. He's
all right. So
great.
Let's break down his toolkit, right? So he is an offensive character. He has 200 health, which is pretty much your standard beginning point. Let's talk about his weapon. He has a heavy pulse rifle. He is a hit scan character. For those who don't know what hit scan is, so how do you put this simply?
It's basically there's no travel time in it. So basically, as far as the computer side of it, it's calculated the trajectory instantly and it's applied. So there's no travel time whatsoever. That's what you need to know.
Pretty much, yeah. So there's no projectile or slow moving thing. It's just faster than light.
Right. Automatically checks the trajectory and makes the hit and takes the damage. So.
Right. So his primary fire, which is your left mouse on the PC default, he does little pull shots. 25 ammo, about 10 rounds per second. The damage. He does have some fall off. Obviously, could do anywhere between 5 and 17 damage. Per bullet, and he is he's a good medium range.
Yeah, his mid range is where he's at. He's perfect at that range because it allows him to do damage both with his pull shots, and of course the next ability we're going to talk about, which is the Helix rockets, and get the best out of that.
Yeah, so he is a medium range, so you do have a pretty good threshold before you start seeing the fall off damage, and I believe it was even increased a little bit recently as well.
I believe it was a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit,
not quite McCree range, but a little increase.
No, I think he was like McCree range.
I think McCree got his re-increase a little bit, so I think McCree's a little bit further, but it's about the same. They're close.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same role, kind of. And there's a 1 second reload on his weapon as well.
Right, they play very differently, but same role basically. They basically are your constant damage dealers.
Right, so let's talk about his alternate fire, like you said. Helix rockets, some characters do have an alternate fire, and he is one of them. It does have an 8 second cooldown. He shoots out Helix rockets. It does about 120 damage directly. It does have a splash effect, so if you don't hit directly, you do about 80 damage splash. It will do self damage, so people who play Pharah are pretty familiar with rockets that explode and hurt you.
Yeah, so and it's a key to something that we're going to talk about obviously a little bit later. So as well, it's important to know that you do take self damage from Helix rockets,
and you don't aim at the head.
Yeah, you cannot headshot with the ability, so there's no reason to aim at the head, definitely, and that's something that of course we're going to talk about in the discussion as well.
Right, so let's talk about his sprint.
Yes, his sprint ability, which is important to note because it is kind of like a passive ability. You do have to enable, you toggle it on and off with your shift ability, but there is no cooldown. You can move continuously with it on. The only thing to note is that you can't fire or do anything else other than jump with it on. And it's also important to note that you do have to keep moving. It does come off if you stop.
You have to keep moving forward.
You have to keep moving forward. It's important. Yes, you can't enable it and then move left or right. You have to constantly moving forward, and then you can also move left and right if you want to while you're moving forward.
Yeah, so pretty much on the PC, you're holding W. You can still strafe with W, but if you let go W, you stop sprinting. And there is an option, I believe, to like make the sprint toggable.
Yes.
I wouldn't recommend that, but I mean it's more of a personal preference thing.
Yeah,
I guess
it's default. It's on off, just with the your baseline, your shift button on your keyboard, and you just hold it down. But yes, you can make it toggleable. Not something that we would recommend. But
yeah, I mean you could just let go of shift, let go of W. You could even just like primary fire. Those will all cancel.
Yeah, your alt
sprint.
fire will cancel it. Whatever.
It won't fire it. Like if you just the first time you left click, for example, it'll stop the sprint. It won't shoot, and then you'll be able to shoot. Because when he's sprinting, the gun's at his chest or something, running. He's not aiming. I mean, people coming from the Battlefield and the other games, they're familiar with the sprint kind of, gameplay.
But it is an important ability for him because it allows him quite a bit of mobility, and it allows him to have mobility both in the fight and allowing him to get in and back to the fight quickly as well. So
it's extremely, extremely useful for sure. Let's talk about his biotic field E.
Right, so baseline E on the keyboard's biotic field, another real important ability. It's a duration of about 5 seconds. It does have a 15-second cooldown, and it does about a 35 per second heal in about a 5-meter range. So you basically, key button, push E, it puts the ability down. It's a little biotic, health, and you put it down on the ground, and everybody standing in your 5-meter range, which is visible on the ground, it's real easy to spot, will get healed.
Yeah, and you can see the enemy's biotic field as well. It has the same red, outline. It's very obvious to see where you're getting heals, the area effect. Not, yeah. And a really interesting fact is it can be reflected by a Genji.
Right, yes, the putting it down, yes.
So if you have an enemy Genji on you that's like on top of you with reflect, maybe don't put down the biotic field.
Right, it's, move away before you put it down, definitely. So it's very interesting. Not something you see often, but...
Yeah, so let's talk about his ultimate, right? Tactical visor activated.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most people are familiar with this. This is the quote-unquote auto aim, makes, easy shooting, makes real easy targets. So duration about 6 seconds, but it is very important to note that you cannot headshot with this ability. So it's important to note that, a lot of people favor using it in some different situations rather than using it when you want to really, put out damage and take people down because you can't headshot, so which is quite a bit of a big deal.
Yeah, so I know for the pros, a lot of times they're able to pull those headshots off, especially at closer ranges, so sometimes you could even argue not ulting would be the best thing in certain circumstances, but it's one of those things where you have to premeditate it, you have to understand, okay, what's the enemy team look like, where's the positioning, yeah, there's a lot of, subtle things about Tactical Visor, right?
Right. So, I mean, first off, I guess we didn't really mention exactly how it works. I mean, the default key Q on your keyboard, it's going to pull up this, bigger reticle around, and then basically anywhere near the realm of where you're aiming, anybody that's in that realm will get auto-targeted, and you won't even have to aim. It will automatically fire at them. And that is both your left click and also your alternate fire as well. So your actual, Helix rockets will actually auto-aim as well.
Right, and it's important to note that it will automatically reload your weapon, right? So you don't want to waste your time reloading, right?
Right, so I think that's something that they changed right after, beta and such. I think
I could have
you had to reload.
Yeah, I could have sworn when I was in beta testing it didn't work that way. But the most recent time I tried it out, so you don't have to, reload before you ulti. You could just unload your whole clip, but then ulti to get the most amount of value out of it. Very interesting, and I did, in the beta they were asking, they're changing things a lot, and we're finding out all these little insights from Blizzard, and I guess they did try to have headshots on Tactical Visor originally.
I can't imagine it's got to be super strong having that headshot.
So they decide not to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see why. I mean, he already does quite a bit of damage. No need to have it headshot.
Yeah, so it's pretty obvious to use. I mean, you'll have the reticles of your enemies. It'll target the closest one to you. You don't even have to aim on top of them. You just have to, you don't have to be you don't have to be
outside of a barn basically.
Yeah, the bullets will magically find their target, and you pretty much just get out of line of sight or behind a shield.
Exactly. So it's quite long. 6-second duration doesn't sound like a lot, but I know when you're going up against an enemy soldier, it seems like forever.
Right, so let's talk about using not McCree, Soldier 76 with all of his abilities in this kit, right? So we always begin by talking about playing to your strengths, realizing, understanding what the character is able to achieve, his strong points, and pretty much, countering your enemy. So the first thing that comes to my mind is positioning, right? So like balconies and stuff, I always try to, new players, I tell them, Hollywood comes to mind, defending Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's like you could be up on the balconies, you're medium range.
Yeah, the first point balcony.
Yeah, you're pretty much, what you want to do is you want to force engagements that are beneficial for you, which is medium range. Obviously, if you have some elevation, it's even better. Because, your tracers and your reapers and stuff, they're not going to just be able to run up to you close quarters. You're going to force that medium distance range.
On that. And they got some travel time to get to you, even if they have to, and then obviously you could just jump down.
Yeah, you see them coming, so you're prepared.
Right, exactly. And it's really strong against someone like a Junkrat, because Junkrat is even harder to use when he's aiming up. So if you're ever going up against a Junkrat, you can just force the elevation difference, and it just makes it so much easier to deal with a Junkrat.
Right, and what else is there?
Well, we mentioned playing in the medium range is definitely probably the most important thing, whether you have elevation advantage or not. The medium range gives you so much to work with, especially with, like you said, characters like Tracer and Reaper, because obviously, you can do more damage from medium range than, say, Reaper, and you're also able to put your heal down. You can kind of move around in that, talking about your sprint, using your sprint in there. You'll see people will do that when they're low health.
Yeah, so pretty much, a lot of characters that are very strong in close quarters, because you have sprint, you're able to get away. Like May comes to mind right away. You're never going to get in her primary fire range, right? You'll be instantly slowed, and even sprint probably won't save you from that. But just never getting into that range is very easy. I mean, some characters it's hard. If you're playing Zenyatta, not much you can do about it. But when you're 76, you can easily just sprint in another direction and never get in that range.
Even someone like a Genji. I mean, Genji obviously has a mobility advantage there, and he can close that gap pretty easily. But if you start out in that medium range, or even a little bit further back, you can force out some things like his reflect. You can have him put that up, and then basically once Genji doesn't have reflect anymore, it's a much easier game for you.
Right, so let's talk about rocket jumping, something I love to do on 76. We talked about it in the previous strategy. There are some other characters that can rocket jump as well, Zarya being one of them. And also, Bastion in tank form could do some pretty good rocket jumping. But 76 is the best rocket jumper because, in my opinion, because you combine these abilities with sprint and get to places that are very strategic. Get to places where normally you wouldn't be able to get to. And he has a really short cooldown on his rocket jump. He doesn't have to be like in tank form, for example, like Bastion has.
Right, exactly. And not only that, again, talking about that medium range and the elevation change, by allowing you to use this ability to, get to higher elevation, it makes things a lot easier for you as soldier. And you can catch people off guard. You can get behind enemy lines, get behind the whole group, take people out very easily. It's very beneficial.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Volskaya and Temple of Anubis when I play 76. There's places where you could get to that people will certainly not expect you, because you can't even get there on 90% of the characters. And for those who don't know how to rocket jump, we should probably say how you go about rocket jumping. The standard rocket jump is going to be a right mouse click, your helix rocket, a space, which is your jump, and shift,
which is sprint.
So this is something that you do something you're just going to have to get used to. It's going to take some practice. It should just be like a fluid moment of all three key presses. They're not at the exact same time, but they're immediately right after each other.
One after the other, yeah. So it's
just like click, 3 clicks
really quickly. And it's
right.
important to note, obviously, you need to be aiming down at the ground when you do this.
Right, so you're not going to be sprinting. So if you're sprinting, you're going to cancel the sprint because you're not going to be able to helix rocket while you're sprinting.
Right.
You're going to cancel the sprint. You're going to aim at your feet, just 100% straight down, because you can't go further than all the way down is perfectly
90 degrees down. Yeah,
90 degrees. And shoot helix rocket, jump, and you're going to push your sprint. So that's going to give you even more momentum. Obviously, you could rocket jump in place without sprinting, but when you're rocket jumping, you're trying to get to a place, right? So you're not just trying to go straight up and down. You do have some horizontal movement as well.
Right, and you're then moving forward as well. So it's, your alternate fire, your helix rocket, so then your space, and your shift obviously, and then you're pushing towards your direction, which is forward, which you want to be going, to be able to clear an obstacle, get up to something. And obviously, all that depends on what you're trying to achieve and where you're trying to get to. Obviously, the distance from you to whatever obstacle you're trying to clear needs to be dependent on, where you're trying to go. Obviously, if you're trying to climb up something, you can't be right in front of it. That won't work,
Right, yeah, you're going to have to gauge distance.
You got to gauge that. So it takes a little bit of time to get used to it. I mean, just getting down the rocket jumping period takes a little bit of time. And then obviously, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, takes a little time, but that really will tell you the difference between the average Soldier 76, as we said, is a very comfortable character for people to play, apart from people who main Soldier 76 and are really good with them. So.
Right, so keep in mind that it does do some damage to you, so if you're very low trying to escape, you don't want to kill yourself. But yeah, a lot of times I do use this as an escape because you have a wall and you can actually jump over it, and the people pursuing you don't have the ability to
right,
jump
and if you have your biotic field, you can just heal right back up. So
right, and so keep in mind that it's a very quick, rapid succession. Obviously, I would recommend just creating a custom match, take off the cooldowns of your ability so you just spam it all the time, just by yourself, and
just literally go jump around.
Yeah, just practice it by yourself, and like I said, once you know how to do it, you just keep doing it. It's pretty simple, and you're able to get to those Widowmaker perches. Things, people will not expect a 76 up there.
Right, so it'd be really funny to rocket jump right behind a sitting Widowmaker. She won't catch that one for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, you'll be surprised. I'm sure there's probably some YouTube videos out there.
I'm
all
sure
the places you can get to 76 is pretty crazy. But so let's talk about. So that's some of his mobility, right? Rocket jump. That's just part of his kit. But I'm combining that with your sprint and just jumping with sprint, something as simple as just sprinting and jumping. You're actually able to clear gaps and go to places that normal people can't go.
Right. I think of Temple of Anubis, even just getting back a little bit quicker, using your sprint and jump to get over certain obstacles and get back quicker and take different routes is important.
Right. And yeah, and obviously knowing the map you're on is going to be a great help as well. Like I said, you could just create custom matches, be the only person in there, just take off all your cooldowns, just practice all the time, and just have a ball.
Right, definitely.
So let's talk about Soldier's role in the team. Obviously, we talked about him being an offensive character, but he serves a very particular purpose. We're not seeing tons of 76 currently in the meta, but I can guarantee you, the meta will swing around and he'll be back into it again. He's so well rounded.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely see Soldier, and there's always going to be different metas and different teams trying out different things. So I'm sure we will see Soldier in the future.
Right, and he's pretty much he's a person I would recommend for new players.
Yeah, definitely. He's very easy to start off, easy to jump into and deal consistent damage, help the team out, be a big asset to your team without having to know the ins and outs of him. And then it's pretty easy to go from there and build and be a better player with him. And just overall, it's going to help you be a better player with all characters, just knowing certain things.
Right, so let's talk about managing 76's spread. So this is something that's changed relatively recently, actually, and throughout the time the games existed. So pretty much the way it works is after a certain amount of bullets, there is some spread. So, if you're using 76 to his greatest potential, you're playing him kind of like a burst firing character. You're firing a burst. You're not just spraying and praying, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very different to get used to. Some people with other FPS gaming background will know about spread and how that works, and of course, maximizing your damage through that spread. Obviously, bursting is the important key here. Is they just made the recent change where the spread starts a little bit sooner into your firing, but it's also going to recover a lot quicker. So that obviously incentivizes spreading out your bursts a little bit more. So
right. So what we're talking about pretty much is the first, few bullets that fly out of your pulse gun are pretty much dead accurate, and after that it starts getting less inaccurate.
Yeah, definitely more inaccurate.
So what you do
crazy.
is you just stop shooting and then continue shooting again with a better accuracy. That's what we talk about bursts.
Right, and that's key, especially if you're in that mid-range, you're not using your ultimate, and you want to be aiming for the head, obviously, to do the most damage. The head is obviously a smaller part than, say, the body area, and of course, if you're aiming at that smaller target, you need more accurate firing. If you're firing and you're just holding left-click down, you're not going to be hitting headshots.
Yeah, and the spread's pretty visible. You could go into the training thing and actually see the spread. You could shoot into a wall and see the actual spread, what it looks like.
Right, and obviously, depending on which reticle you have, the default reticle shows it pretty well too. it'll show you the spread of the reticle as well.
Blooming.
It blooms, yes, that's what they call it.
Yeah, I liked on pretty much almost every character. I just like the single green dot. How do you like it?
Yeah, it really depends for me. I think McCree is one of the weird ones. I have the default reticle on McCree, but all the other ones I have the small crosshair on. So it's a little bit different for me. I like to have some little bit of visual cue. My eyes aren't the greatest, so it makes me hard to focus on certain areas. With that little tiny dot, it's hard for me to focus.
Yeah, so I pretty much like the dot. I mean, the small crosshair is probably my second favorite, but I think there's only two characters that don't like it, and that's Hanzo, because you like the little arrow distance marker, and then Zarya. I like Zarya's default. You're able to measure the right click.
Yeah, the trajectory very well with her.
Yeah. But other than that, I just like that. That's obviously personal preference.
Yeah,
but
which is a great thing with Overwatch is you can go in there into your settings UI and literally change it for every single character to whatever you want, which is awesome.
You can save it, and obviously you can change the color and the different designs for those that maybe not listen to the show.
Turn the bloom on and bloom off as well, which is, as we were mentioning, the blooming of the reticle. It opens up when your accuracy is going away. So.
It's pretty much an identification of how much spread you're getting. Obviously, like Tracer has tons of spread. But I just use a circle on her because you just put the circle on the head.
Yeah, and her spread's not that big a deal because you're usually close range when you use it. So, but again, back to Soldier.
All right, so let's talk about his Helix rockets. A lot of people, especially learning how to play the game, they shoot at the body.
Yeah, so this is probably, I would say, probably the easiest thing, the biggest thing that right off the bat, it's super easy to learn. It's not a lot of time spent to learn it. But it's one of the biggest things I think can help most people when they first start playing. When they first start playing, as you said, they're aiming towards, the head of the body and such, and that's not a good idea. As we mentioned, you cannot headshot with the Helix rockets. There's no point in aiming towards the head. You definitely want to aim, obviously, out of the body, or as we were talking about here, you want to aim towards the feet is probably your best bet.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the feet. It could be a wall, right in front of the wall, but pretty much if you play Zarya, or not Zarya, if you play Pharah, all of her shots are rockets, right? So you're not going for body shots on Pharah. You're aiming for, usually the ground, but it could be a wall or some surface to get
depending on
damage.
The trajectory that they're traveling. If they're traveling in the direction of a wall, then the wall is the easiest way to aim. You can aim at the back wall behind them or the wall to their right that they're walking towards or whatnot. But with the splash damage, it makes it a lot easier to hit them.
And, of course, verticality makes it even easier. So if you're a little bit higher than them, aiming down is easier. But, yeah, just keep in mind that it is splash damage, so you could do you can hit multiple people with it. But it will do more damage if you get a direct body shot. But the thing is, if you aim at the feet, if you don't hit perfectly the feet, you still do damage. It's like guaranteed damage.
Right.
If you're aiming at the body, it just goes right by them.
Exactly. Especially at, really long range or really close range. You find it difficult sometimes at close range to hit directly on a target if they're moving sporadically. If it's Genji right in front of you, you're far better off just aiming at the feet. The only thing to keep in mind with Genji, of course, is he's jumping around a lot of times. So
yeah. So, you can actually hit Genji, if you hit he could still suffer from the splash damage, but you have to be careful with the reflect because it kind of is a big hitbox. So even sometimes you think you hit the ground and it gets reflected still.
Yeah, I've had that happen way too many times. I will say I thought I even aimed it I was super close to him and I aimed it to the right and away from me and it's still reflected. I was like, what is up with that?
Yeah, was that before the 60-tick servers or after?
I want to say I don't know, but yeah, definitely watch out for Genji. He is your mortal enemy when he has that reflect up. So
right, but you can heal yourself, and one little pro tip: a lot of times you find yourself in situations where there's a Genji reflecting, or maybe there's a Zarya with a shield, and obviously you're not shooting that. There's certain circumstances where for a moment you're not doing any damage. What I recommend doing is just putting down your heal and sprinting inside of it. So you're really fast. You just do little circles or figure eights inside of it. Really hard to hit, and you're healing at a pretty good rate. Like I said, for times where, there's nothing to do, or there's no place line of sight or anything like that.
Right, and you're taking damage. Obviously, if you're full health, you don't want to be doing that. But
maybe about to take damage or something.
Or yeah, exactly. So it's a preemptive thing that you can do as well, and even also you can help out your allies. As we mentioned, the biotic field will heal your allies as well. So it's important to note, if you have someone taking a lot of damage, a healer, say for instance, that needs help, you can actually heal them up as well. So don't be selfish. Think about, you have teammates as well. You can put it down, and obviously, if you're playing Soldier right, you should be putting it down quite often. So just think about where you're placing it. Make it easy for your allies to stand in a heal as well. You can move a lot easier. So
And keep in mind, a lot of supports are not able to heal themselves.
Exactly,
Zenyatta
so-
and Mercy and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Zenyatta heals automatically, because he has, a lot of his health being, a shield, so that comes back relatively quickly. But obviously, if he's taking damage,
Yeah,
that,
if you're in the
that
heat of the
health
battle,
will
yeah.
help, definitely. So.
And like everything else, you could put it on a moving object and it moves with it. So you can put it
Payload's
on the
a good idea.
payload,
Yep.
for example.
Yeah, exactly. And also keep in mind, you have that heal. So, as we talk about health packs and such, knowing the map, there are certain characters, obviously like Tracer, who do really well with using the health packs. You have your heal. You don't really need the health pack normally. So if you have that heal up, try not to waste the health
And
packs.
remember, healing yourself and other people give you ult charge.
Exactly. So another big thing with him is having that heal down there and healing yourself up, and actually taking a little bit of damage specifically to heal yourself and get that ult charge is also a good way to get that ult.
Right, so a little while ago they had added a feature where you could put friendly health bars on, for example, if you're playing 76, they did this for Azarian 76 only, where you could actually see friendly health bars, because for those characters specifically it was important to know what your friendly's health were, and obviously all the healers have that by default, but recently they made it so every hero in the game has that option. So especially for 76, obviously you can have certain different settings for different heroes, but for 76 you definitely want to have your friendly health bars showing, and that's going to give you better value out of your heal and more ultimate charge. More tactical visors is always good.
Definitely. So yeah, you definitely want to go in there and enable that right away. So that will definitely be a very good help for you.
All right, so let's talk about the biggest probably mistake that most new players do with 76, and that is not knowing how or when to use tactical visor.
Right. And so we were just talking about Battlefield, so we'll start there. I guess probably the easiest thing. Biggest mistake, using it when you're not at full health and you're taking damage. Probably not the smartest thing in the world. I mean, it does quite a bit of damage. You can take people out really quickly if they don't have defensive things up, but you can just put down the Battlefield before you ult, and you will save yourself a lot of headache.
Yeah, and do know that when you put a Battlefield, you do kind of make your positioning predictable. You could exploit this against enemy 76s when they put down that heal. They're probably planning on staying in it, so abilities that are AoE.
Rocket right there and stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of times if you're going against 76 or if you're dueling, 76 for 76, if they're standing in their Battlefield, you just don't peek until it's over, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. You just make it
Just
make it
out.
an even field again. You wait till it's over, then now you still have your health and they don't.
Maybe you force the encounter and you still have yours.
Exactly. So
But let's talk about his ultimate. So pretty much, you obviously want to be primary firing the majority of the 6 seconds it's up. So you don't want to pop it, then drop your heal, or then start sprinting to the location. You want to be where exactly you want to be when you start shooting. We already mentioned that it reloads your gun, so you don't have to bother about reloading. The duration makes it so you can pretty much empty your whole clip, reload, and then another
whole clip almost.
Another whole clip pretty much.
So yeah, and we mentioned, like I said, 6 seconds. It does quite a bit of damage. It's going to auto target. So as long as you're around enemies, you're going to get really good value out of it. The important thing to keep in mind, obviously, other people still have their ultimates and their abilities. You want to watch out for Reinhardt ultimates, things like that are going to totally negate your ultimate, are a huge waste. Positioning is important. Again, you want to be at that medium range, or like we mentioned, higher altitude as well. Having that difference in height advantage as well is really good. But again, several things to keep in mind. Reinhardt's shield. I think we mentioned that you don't want to be aiming at a Reinhardt shield. You're wasting your whole ultimate at that pretty much.
Right. So almost every ultimate in the game works in a way where your awareness is going to be key. So being aware of obviously where your enemies are, but more importantly, does that Zarya still have her shield available? Did she recently use it? Is it on cooldown? What's the shield of Reinhardt look like? If it's cracking and just about 100, 200 damage away, you could probably start pre-firing that down and know you get some value out of it. Obviously, flanking with this is extremely effective. Even if they have a Reinhardt shield or whatever.
Again, so using that rocket jumping and getting to a certain area, you can get behind the enemy team and such, and then you can do really devastating, taking a lot of people down with the tactical visors.
Right, and you don't want to run in by yourself. Obviously, you want to wait for that engagement with your team, but if you're from the side or from the behind, they're either going to have to deal with you and leaves them vulnerable to the rest of your team, or vice versa.
Right. I think Reinhardt's probably one of the biggest one to mention that with, if he's got his shield up and your team is having a lot of trouble with him and dealing with him, coming from, a higher location or getting behind him or coming from just a different location, he can only have his shield up in one direction. So it makes it really vulnerable for him to have to deal with you on the other side of that shield.
But yeah, 76, a good flanker. A lot of people don't, see the potential in his flanking, but he has, with the sprint, he's able to get in and get out. You don't want to be always behind enemy lines, in particular because 76 is really good behind a friendly Reinhardt, So 76 does have really good value with the team, with your AoE heal. You could be with your tank. You could be kind of a little bodyguard for your support in case, a little, pesky little, Genji or
yeah,
Tracer
and that
comes
really
by.
all comes down to your comp and your enemy's comp as well. If you have a lot of flankers that are, pestering your healer, then obviously, babysitting your healer is probably one of the better things that you can do. And obviously, even if you're not directly on top of them, just always knowing where your healer is and protecting them as well as your tank and other players.
Right, and that's pretty much how I typically play him. I'll play him mostly with my team, with my tank. But when our ultimate, comes around, I try to think, okay, is there some opportunities here to flank, catch him off guard? And you don't want to be too greedy. If you're able to get 1 or 2 kills, that's a really good trade-off. I mean, you should win that encounter. Obviously, prioritize targets. If there's a Mercy, if you just kill her, then your ultimate's worth it. You win.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when your team is about to push or there's going to be a huge team fight. Taking that healer out or that tank out is going to be a huge boon to your team, as well as it's important to note that, both with doing damage, taking damage, and also healing yourself and your allies, you can get your ultimate charge pretty quickly. So don't hold on to it too much. If you can use it, if you can kill a couple people, definitely use it.
Right, and don't sit on it too long, obviously. Just see the opportunities, make the opportunities, and
yeah, I mean, good players, as you get better playing the game, just knowing the game and knowing the character, the hero specifically, good players will make those plays available, make those windows of time where they can make a lot of huge plays. So.
Right, yeah, just don't push Q and then just spam left click and hope something dies. It's something you want to, premeditate, think about it, try to put yourself in the right position, and his kit, I think, supports that ability. He did it pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. So he's a really good, well-rounded character. Like we said, he does everything really well. He flanks, he supports the team really well, and he does constant damage. So he's definitely a really good hero, especially for starting out, for starter players to get used to the game, get used to the map, move around. And it's also very familiar. We didn't talk too much about that, but having the sprint is very common to most other FPS. So it's one of the things where it's very familiar for other FPS players and even players who haven't played any real FPS type games.
Yeah, I mean, his basic kit is really straightforward. You can be effective with him without much experience, but to really maximize him, to get the rocket jumping down, to, creating those opportunities with your ultimate, that does take some practice. So, the skill floor is pretty low, but the ceiling, leaves some space to advance.
Definitely. So yeah, you'll see a lot of them out there. A lot of Soldier 76s, but yeah, there's some very good Soldier 76s that you want to be aware of. Basically, if you see a golden gun, be wary. It's probably not.
You're speaking of golden guns. I got the 3,000 points and I still haven't spent them.
Oh,
I mean, there's something wrong with me. Like I should be buying a golden weapon. I mean, I got 300 from season 1, right? Or 3,000 now.
See, I'm a little weird like that. I don't even know who I would spend the golden guns on. I'd probably do Genji just because I think probably of all of them, the Shurikens is probably the best, just because it's not crazy too much. I'm not big on the golden guns, honestly, but I think it's more of a status thing anyway. People have golden guns, especially the golden bastions and such. It's just funny to have. So
yeah, I should probably just get the golden balls as Zenyatta already, and because that's who I'm playing all the time.
Yeah, sounds like a good choice.
Yeah. But anyways, was there anything else on 76? Any other tips and tricks?
I think that's pretty much it. I think we covered him pretty well. Like I said, just get out and play him, practice a lot. Practice moving around, doing those rocket jumps, and I think that's gonna do it for Soldier 76, and that will do it for this show. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Right, and I want to let you guys know that this episode is brought to you by 2 Moon Studios, and you could contact us at aheroeswelcomepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter at 2 Moon Studios. Thank you again to all those people who have taken the time to reach out to us and contact us. Thank you so much, and till next time.
Till next time.